What's up,
Big
everybody?
Bad.
It's Mark from 403 Fauna, along with.
Jason Radass Designs.
Welcome to the Fauna Topic, where every week we talk about relevant subjects to the ball python and reptile industry. Now, this week we'll be talking about genetic shed testing. I know there was a big reveal from RGI this week, so we'll cover that. But before we get into it, how was your week, Jason?
It was good. It was good. I have recently moved to Big Bear, California. It's a mountain resort town, and I've worked there for 2.5 years. But I am now relocated there. Right now, I'm back in the desert, but it's really peaceful up there. I grew up in Northern California, and you're in San Diego. It's really pretty there too. Lots to do and different environments to enjoy. But mountain towns are really cool. I hadn't gone to Tahoe until I was older, and I'm just enjoying it. Like it's called Big Bear, but I have yet to see a bear. I've seen three bobcats and like five longhorn rams. They jump around on the cliffs and stuff, and then some like minks, ferret-like creatures, and some foxes. And they have a camera that's positioned on this pair of bald eagles. So every year when they lay eggs, like everybody watches that on YouTube. It's kind of cool. Sometimes the snow will be coming down and completely covering them, and they'll be covering the eggs. And then sometimes they still don't hatch. Sammy, what's going on, man? I Yeah, so I'm enjoying it. It's very peaceful and scenic and fresh air and I'm not having to commute as much. So I'm saving like $400 to $500 a month on gas.
Very nice.
Gas is expensive, Mark.
Yeah, I'm so fortunate to live less than a mile from my work, so
Yeah, that's so awesome. Like I have only had that in my life like once when I first started my trade, and I've always driven all over the place. Lucky's Pythons, what's good? Everything is good if you have a good attitude. It's all perspective, Lucky. So yeah, that's been a fun transition, making friends and stuff. I went line dancing.
oh
At
wow.
least I tried to the other night. That's something they do up there, and it actually looks kind of cool. It's like synchronized swimming, but on a dance floor, and it takes some practice to be comfortable with it. So I'm watching videos and stuff. I checked on the snakes here on Tuesday and shipped and received snakes, and everybody was doing pretty good. And then I realized that I don't know what I did. I must have taken a water bowl out, maybe a mouse jumped in it, I don't know. And like I just checked on all the reptiles, and there were two tubs in the Freedom Breeder rack that had no water bowls. So they were without water for a few days. I felt super bad. And so I gave them lots of hydration and water, but luckily their cages are like super humid and had been cleaned recently. But I felt bad. I don't know how I overlooked that. And everybody else is doing good. Still no eggs. That's kind of like a little bit of a surprise. But otherwise everything good. What about you? How was your week?
My week was pretty good. First of all, before I get into my portion, I gotta say that um, your attitude is like very bright today. So
Yeah, it is like a heartbreak will kind of get you really down. And that could be from anything. Like someone I talked to the other day, they had to put their cat down on Monday. And that oh my God, this cat like this cat's like the equivalent of like a firefly zebra exanthic with like paradoxing orange dream on it. Like this cat was like calico and like amazing. Some cats I follow a bunch of like Facebook pages. I'm not on Facebook a lot, but I follow some Facebook pages where it's just like the most gorgeous cat ever, and these people know it, and so they have like an Instagram page or a Facebook page, and this cat was like those super super cool looking, just wild like tricolor crested gecko, but like more neon, and it had kidney failure, and that's what happens a lot of times to cats. And it
Mhm.
happened to my cat when she was 19, and it was really sad. And I didn't put my cat down, and that's one of the things I regret from all the reptiles, felines, dogs that I've ever had for a while. Like that was like the most regretful thing, because sometimes you have to do, the humane thing and put an animal down because it's just in so much pain. Its quality of life is so low. But we as keepers of all sorts of animals sometimes don't want to let go or whatnot. Sometimes we try to treat something to get it better. And my cat definitely suffered at the end, and it was very sad. So I was just trying to share that with that person and be like, hey, you know, you did the right thing. So you don't really have to question that. Like that cat, it was its time, and it was no longer comfortable, and it'll reincarnate as a ball python or something else. And but yeah, I being in another community can sometimes be scary when people move. Some people are like nomads, they just move all the time, or some people they have a home base but they travel a lot. And I like to travel, but and I've been commuting up there, and I know what a nice community it is, but I wasn't super comfortable. I was kind of insecure going to a new community. And then I realized, wow, this is way better than where I've been. Like the desert has its own beauty, but I wasn't invested into the community here where I was living. And the community up there in the mountain is really cool and really friendly. And I don't think there's like lots of ball pythons up there, although there are some keepers. I just haven't really connected with them yet. But yeah, it put me in a pretty good mood. And yeah, I'll be headed out your direction in a couple of days. I'll be headed out that general direction, not quite that far south, but out to the beaches, just because I'd only been to the beach once in the 5+ years that I've been in the desert. Whereas where I grew up since 1980 when I was 3, like I was always half an hour from the beach. So, I mean, you can go to the beach whenever you want. Not
Yeah.
everybody can, especially people in the middle of the country. It's like some people live like most their life and they've never been to the beach. What?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I'm in a good mood. How was your week though? How did everything go?
Everything's good. But before, one more thing. Sammy asked if
Hmm.
we're going to be at Pomona in June. I am. Are you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm gonna go to Pomona. Of course. It's such a huge venue and so many people are going, and I wouldn't miss it for anything.
Pomona and Anaheim will be there, Sammy.
Yeah. Yeah, of
Okay,
course.
so my week was good. I had another ovulation. So my oldest girl, she's 13, going on 14, and she's gone 3 years in a row. This will be her fourth year in a row. She's a
Hmm.
black pastel calico, and she's every year it seems like she just makes more pretty and pretty babies. And she was
Nice.
bred to Orange Dream Enchi Het Puzzle. So I'm hoping for those campfires and Het Puzzle campfires. I think that would be an incredible addition.
Yeah.
I've got a girl who I'm still waiting on eggs. She should any week or two now. I should have my first clutch of eggs this year. I think that my young clown males, the lace clown, he didn't do his job, so I'm a little disappointed in that. I
I
noticed my
thought I thought he was like starting up a little bit, getting active.
yeah he I need to try him again, but the girl that I was putting him with, I think she
Hmm.
reabsorbed because
Mm.
she got thick and she stopped eating, and then I was offering food the other day. I opened up her tub, and as soon as I opened it, boom, she grabbed it. And I noticed her body was a little thinner than usual. So I'm thinking that she reabsorbed, and she was the one that the lace clown was going to. So
Oh man.
I don't know about that, but
Yeah.
I do have an Enchi clown. Hopefully, she'll go for me, but I don't know. But
Mm.
I sold a snake for the first time in a while, which I was
Nice.
surprised. I'm glad it did. It was one of those snakes that I had up for auction that the buyer ended up not buying. I kind
Right.
of I forgot he was there because I had put him on not for sale or on hold, one of those categories. And I said, "Oh yeah, I got this guy here." So I put him up, and someone like within a day or two had requested to buy that. So I'm kind of pleased that sales aren't just all auctions on Morph Market now.
Hmm.
Sometimes snakes that are up there for a while will get that call, and it's kind of
Yeah.
motivated me to put more things on sale. I've got some adult males and females that I need to clear rack space with. So
Hmm.
Morph Market was kind to give me 2 more auctions this month. So I need to take advantage of that. But
Yeah.
pretty good week here at 403 Fauna.
Nice. Yeah, that snake's unique looking.
Yeah,
The one
sweet.
that you mentioned. He's pretty cool.
Hey, our shout out of the week is Scaly Piggies, Adrian,
Hmm.
and he got the question correct last week. And he wasn't able to make it with us this week, so I've scheduled him 2 weeks from now. And next week
Nice.
we will have Quest the Rebel on with us, so we'll learn about him.
Hmm.
But
Well,
Adrian,
now I know why he's called Scaly Piggies because of
yeah,
hog noses.
everything hot. So if you guys can check out Scaly Piggies on
Hmm.
Instagram, and he works with colubrids and hognoses. I'm not really familiar with them and whether they're the same or not, but he's
Well,
got a lot.
hog noses are rear fanged.
Yeah,
They're
right.
technically mildly venomous, and every once in a while somebody will get bit by one and have a little bit of a reaction. They're not really serious, but they use that from what I understood years ago was to mostly subdue like toads and frogs
Hmm.
in the wild. That's a little bit more their natural diet, and that's why they've evolved to be rear fanged. And they can sometimes double clutch. So people have had double clutches from like king snakes and corn snakes, but it's not very common, in my opinion. And with hog noses, you almost don't really have to try very hard. Sometimes they'll just do it. It's probably a little bit rough on them, but they'll probably skip a year. But they double clutch semi regularly if they're really, really healthy. Um, and they like to play dead. They're the possums.
Yeah.
They're the possums of the reptile world.
Well,
Mm.
I usually do question of the week after this because
Mm-hmm.
the winner of that gets the shout out and gets a short spot on our show and also is added to our raffle at the end of the year
Mm-hmm.
for a snake from both you and I. But
Yeah.
usually at the beginning of the show, our numbers aren't quite there, and I wanted to give more people a chance to get in. So I've
Yeah.
kind of moved it a little further down the line. So actually, the
Sure.
Radass Snake of the Week is next.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you have that ready?
It's in my hands.
Okay. Uh,
So I shipped a snake to Oregon. So someone that watches the show here, because I had recommended it and come check it out, they agreed to do a trade in like early winter. And it was for a mahogany het pied girl that I have that I picked up extra at one point and just thought, well, I think the guy really hadn't worked with mahogany, and he had like a lot of monarch and different like possible head stuff. And I got some snakes from him, and um, yeah, like I just added her to the box when I eventually I did get this one snake that I like very much, which is her sister. And I knew she was mahogany. I could tell. She's just not like a super obvious version of it. Like mahogany is variable, and in the way that the head looks, with how like chocolatey it is, or the side patterns and how much white borders the alien heads and things. But I knew it was mahogany, and she's just, I don't know, she's just a really pretty snake and a good eater and really calm disposition and just an ideal overall ball python. And she's ever so tiny bit, like a little bit smaller than her sister, but she's a good snake. And this person put an auction item up, and that was this snake. And we had showed that auction ad on the show at one point, and I won this snake for, geez, I don't know, I think it was like $340. And then I paid shipping and then waited and waited. I was like, I'm not worried about like when it arrives. And I wanted to add something to it. And they're like, oh yeah, well that mahogany snake, that's pretty cool because then we can, make different stuff with that, like sumapides or something. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of why like I had gotten her. I'm hoping her sister's mahogany, but I don't know that as confidently. I'm hopeful. So this snake is pastel, lemon line pastel, um, which is pretty cool. She's very lemony,
Mhm.
and she is het for clown and het for TSK Exanthic,
Ooh,
which I guess has been in the news lately. I haven't been paying as much attention to it,
yes, we'll
but
get into that.
yeah, we'll get into that. So I picked up her, I think it's her sister. I think it's like her sister or her older sister or cousin or something, a bigger snake, like maybe like 800 grams or thereabouts. And that one is just a regular ball python, but also double het clown and TSK. So I swapped the mahogany het pied for her, and she is in the rack. And I picked them up Wednesday morning, um, and they're doing good. This one's pretty mellow, and she's like super soft. I don't know why she feels extra soft. Pretty cool, cool blushing, and lemon line pastel. So yeah, they've made I think it was like Moonlight Exotics. Oh, I feel bad now. She wrote Layla the like most nicest little note and cool handwriting and stickers and all this stuff. Just really well shipped animals and a great presentation and good vibes and super patient all winter with me and it worked out. And I sent her an extra bonus snake too. That was like a little bit dehydrated, but a small 66% het sunset juvenile that needed a little bit of TLC, and I just feel real confident that it'll prove out. Like it's a pastel 66% het sunset. And hopefully that works out for her. And it was just a good overall long-term transaction, and I got a couple new snakes, so pretty cool.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Okay, we're going to get into our problem of the week. So, audience members, this is your chance to get a shout out next week. Be a part of our show for a small segment, introducing yourself and sharing with us your projects, and also to be in a raffle for a snake from myself and Jason at the end of the year.
Yep.
So, our problem of the week, let me share it. Okay, so which one of these shed tests are not yet available for ball python morphs? Number 1, Mystic. 2, Vanilla. 3, Enchi. Or 4, Black Pastel. So audience, feel free to take a guess. First one that guessed correctly will win all those accolades I just mentioned.
I know the answer. I know the answer.
Now, have you shed tested yet, Jason?
I haven't. I've saved so many sheds in little tiny Ziploc bags that I had all these plans and I just haven't. Even when I had like plenty of money where it's and everything is ready, I just haven't. And then, Charlie has a new option. There's someone else to go with, and I just, for one reason or another, have just not sent any sheds in. And there's main ones that I want to do, and that's like I have some exanthic females that are like possible het pied, and then I have like a bunch of like possible het sunset stuff, and there's some other thing. There's a couple snakes I have that are most likely het cryptic, and I don't know for sure, but I could find out. And I will get around to that. Ooh, somebody said it.
Well, we have a winner, Leviathan Snakes. So
hmm
um, if you could make some time for us next week, Stephen, we could add you here for like 10 minutes or so just to join us, or maybe even longer. Who knows? We'll figure something out. Actually, it'll be in 3 weeks, my bad. But we'll definitely give you a shout out next week. I'm not sure if we have anything that we'd produce that would fit into your projects, but hey, we'll throw you in that raffle as well. That
Sure.
can
I
be
don't know. We have some stuff in our
true.
collections
We do have some.
that Courtney and Steven do not have. That is possible to come pop out this year. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But he is correct. I assume it's Steven answering. It's vanilla. It is, and vanilla is a slightly confusing gene to some people in that it acts sometimes like other things, like fire. And I like vanilla. A super vanilla is pretty cool looking. It's got a very blushed out head, like a super pastel, and it's almost like a little bit underrated.
It's very beautiful. The reason I put it there because I wanted to get a vanilla test, but I
hmm
did. I took advantage of the opportunity that RGI has given us with the pick four, and I was like, oh, this is my chance to figure out whether it's vanilla or fire, but that's not an option quite yet. Shout out to
hmm
Nixon Reptiles, who also said vanilla just a little bit later than
Yeah.
Leviathan. But yeah, vanilla is not an option right now.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so let's get into the big news that dropped this week, which was Rare Genetics Inc. announces that MJ Azanthic line and GCR line Azanthic are the same.
hmm
This was kind of, I think, mentioned. I've heard them called the same pretty much, and it's nice to get confirmation through genetic testing. Now you work with TSK, right? And you also have
hmm
VPI, don't you?
Yeah, VPI and it's been tempting to get into other stuff. And what's really interesting is all the speculation and what we didn't really know, and it sets you back so much in breeding to try to like put Monarch to Ultramel or like this type of Axanthic line to another type, and then you got these double heads, and it's but the black Axanthic line of Axanthic was one that I was kind of interested in, and then we'll get to that in a little bit. But the MJ line of Axanthic tends to be, from what I can tell, a little bit cleaner. A little bit cleaner of an overall snake when you make lightning pieds and when you make Axanthics. It just, in my opinion, is like a tiny bit cleaner. And you'll find that in different reptiles with different like lines of gene mutations with like anathoristic and exanthic. You'll find that they act a little bit different. I used to work with rosy boas a lot, and there were certain anathoristic rosy boas from Southern California, multiple different lines that have been caught in the wild and then bred in captivity that are essentially blue. They're not just like a blue gray, but they're just like straight up like some of them are like really, really like blueberry blue. Like they were rolling around in a tub with like permanent marker and like a blue Sharpie. And so there's so many different lines of Xanthic in ball pythons that they're not all compatible, and we're starting to finally with testing figure it all out. It's all starting to fall into place.
Yeah. When I initially got in, I wanted to work VPI Xanthic Pieds, and I saw MJ line, and it honestly it looks way better, the Lightning Pieds compared
Hmm.
to the VPI Pieds, and I decided not to go that direction because of that. But Brandon brings up a good point here in that MJ
Hmm.
hasn't been bred to oblivion like all the other lines, and hasn't been diluted yet. So, and you got a guy like Marcus Jane working the project, it's gonna be really top of the line.
Yeah, and it also just does it is a separate mutation that occurred, and it just acts a tiny bit different and isn't compatible with the other ones. And some are going to be darker, some are going to be grayer, some are going to be more likely to brown out, some less likely. There's ways that we can like manipulate that through selective breeding and try to bring the best out of it or what we think is the best. But in my opinion, from the pictures that I've seen from people, the MJ line of Xanthic, it is a little bit cleaner. It is a little bit more reliable to be nice looking as an older animal. And and that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. The GCR one is like that's just probably that same line that like got filtered through to a snake, I'm guessing, in America from some sort of, shipment from Canada and did that. It's possible they both did it separately on their own, sure, but like I'm assuming that they got somebody had it pop out because snakes from up there had come down here, and that I believe is the American line of it, and
I've
they've.
From what I saw on the RGI live, and
Hmm.
audience help me out here, but I think originally this line came out of Pete Call, and he sent some up to Canada and some stayed in America, and
Hmm.
apparently they both originated from Pete Call stock. But
Interesting.
yeah, okay. The other big news coming from RGI was that TSK Axanthic and Black Axanthic are the same. So
Yeah.
this is some big news here because um, those people working Black Axanthic, they have more available since they could buy TSK line animals and mix that in with their Black Axanthic. Do you think they should stay separate names, or should they call them one name, or what?
Yeah, I mean, for a little while they should stay separate, I think, just to in my opinion, just to know for a little while tracking on where they came from and some different stuff. Like I think that Black Axanthic was one I was interested in and had almost made some investments in because it's really dark a lot of times. And
Mm-hmm.
so is TSK, but like not always so dark, but it all kind of makes sense now because some black Xanthics are just that, like really, really black and dark. And then some almost look a little bit like VPI-ish when they get older. And some just get like super, super dark. So that's what I've noticed. I'm not like an expert on TSK line, but when I see them at shows in the last couple of years, I've noticed that some of the examples that I'm looking at just have like all this like it's almost like muddying, but like in a dark inky way. And it's almost like the black just can't be held in place with TSK, so it just kind of splotches out and gets like kind of muddy, but not in a like a browning way necessarily, more just like the black just like spreads. Like when somebody is too heavy-handed tattooing and putting black lines, like it'll later that if you put it at a kind of a weird angle or if you go too deep, that ink under your skin will eventually over time just kind of like spread out underneath and
Yeah.
it'll look like it's essentially bleeding or muddier. And it's kind of a little bit a way to explain that, in that I've seen some that were like so strange, like so strange. It's almost like they're paradoxy a little bit, that I was like, wow, I'm kind of interested in TSK. And then I've talked to some breeders that have had stuff at shows or like online that I've seen, and talked with people about that project, that like they don't really like TSK for some reason. They just like, yeah, we got it, but we're not really super satisfied with it. It didn't act like how we wanted, or we got stuff as TSK, but then it was like didn't prove out. It was like another line. And I guess I started to lean towards it a little bit when I saw a bunch of it in person in a couple collections of like Exanthic clowns. Like TSK clowns are pretty cool looking, and it's just kind of the direction I started to lean a little bit. I have double heads of VPI and TSK of Exanthic clown double heads, and I think it's a fun project. I like clowns a lot, and I only have one in my collection, and I wanted to eventually someday make Exanthic clowns, and I guess I've decided to make both and compare for myself.
Yeah. I'm in the Axanthic Clown project as well, but VPI line. I do have one black Axanthic now, TSK female.
Hmm.
She's my 50% het monsoon, and I
Right.
want to prove her het monsoon first. And if she didn't prove out, then I could work that black Axanthic line now, TSK. I think that kind of opens up the possibilities of finding a male double het TSK monsoon as opposed to black Axanthic monsoon, which is a little bit more rare. But
Hmm.
that's probably something I'll be working with in the future because I do have that female.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, it would be interesting to see. I'll have to watch some videos. I have a pretty busy weekend ahead, but I'm thinking Monday and Tuesday, my day off. I'll just really catch up on a lot of snake stuff on YouTube. And I would like to hear what people have to say about this info, and what they think about it. There's not a ton of GCR stuff out there. This like finding doesn't really surprise me all that much. But there's a lot of people that were in Black Exanthic and excited because it wasn't as common, and I felt like the price was pretty good on it. Like
Yeah.
there was this one snake that I still to this day have saved in my morph market, like animals, that was just a simple, like I think it's like a double het black Exanthic clown female that's a little bit well started and just happens to be like really pretty. And I think it was like the price has been lowered, but at one point it was like maybe like 800, and then it was like 600, I think. And I was like tempted to get it because I was like, oh, cool. Well, I could like work that angle and have black Exanthic, and maybe it'll be darker and it'll be like less common. That's maybe like a good move. But um, I think some people that are in black Exanthic are probably a little bit disappointed,
Mm.
even though it opens up like options and opportunity and stuff. Like I think they feel like, oh, the rug was kind of pulled out from under them as far as like obscurity, or maybe that's not the right word, obscurity, but just like not exactly like rarity, but just like that project has just now like like tripled in size, affecting the value, I would imagine, of black Exanthics. They always seem to be kind of a premium and a little bit of mystery about them. And now I
Yep.
think there's some people that will get out of the project. And I think there's some people that are going to be disappointed. And I think there's going to be some people that lose value. And then there's going to be a lot of people like that are just like, whatever. I really like black Exanthics and TSKs, and it's all good. Like I'm still going to see this through. So interesting in the week ahead to hear what people have to say about it.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to talk about, excuse me, because I just recently got through sending sheds to both RGI and Gray Rider Reptiles, and
Hmm.
free to check out my YouTube videos on that, audience. But I have nothing but really nice things to say about both companies.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to just do a little review of what happened with both of them.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the benefits of shed testing first of all, because there are some benefits and there are some not so good benefits, I suppose. But knowing exactly what genes are in your snake is the important thing. And I've got a phantom girl here that
Mm-hmm.
was sold as a blackhead phantom het clown at a local pet store. And I was not familiar with blackhead or phantom. I picked her up, I bred her out, no clown. And I'm still not sure whether she's phantom or not. I don't think she's blackhead. So this is, I'm just wondering whether I should just put her up for sale or get her tested first before I do that. But she's not a high value animal, so I
Mm-hmm.
probably won't do that. But just knowing exactly what you're snaking is super important. The value of your hets, like I've got some potential triple het snakes in the collection here, and they could be het for nothing or they could be triple het. So the value of them could be way up here or way down here. So knowing that is important. Of course, saving time by knowing what your animals are. For example, I have some 2022 het cryptic clown that were potentially het ultramel and het hypo, and I could have been racing them for 2 years and could have just had some an ordinary Mojave and pastel het cryptic or clown, but they both ended up testing positive for ultramel. So I'm super glad I finally did that. Even though I bought the test for ultramel when they first came out, I barely send in the shed test for those, and I'm glad that they did prove out. And you could save and make money depending on what your tests prove out to be. So, you agree with those benefits, or want to add more to that?
Yeah, I mean, it really one of the main things that it'll do is make you more efficient as a breeder rather than, like you said, holding stuff back and raising it and then taking it a certain direction. Like that might be a snake you didn't have to feed all that time because you didn't really need to raise it. That you have another focus and another efficiency in what you want to do in a certain project, and you can like let stuff go a lot earlier. And then um yeah, it generations of breeding pythons of any type takes time. It takes years, and that's really a lot of times why certain snakes, certain genes, certain morphs, they're like more expensive is because like basically you're buying time, and people have mentioned that a lot, but it's true. Like a lot of the long time old breeders that have just stuck with certain projects to like make something be like hypo or bring out certain traits and things, it takes like year after year after year, generations, like a project to go like 3 times to like fruition sometimes takes 9 years, and sometimes it takes longer if certain things don't line up. And you're buying time. You're buying not having to wait around because you know how patient ball python breeders are. So like that's really what's been pretty amazing. And then the whole like breeding different combos to different combos of like recessive things and then possibly having like triple hets or quad hets, like it's basically advanced the whole like combo hobby like of morphs like many 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 years, just because you can just test stuff and then hold back the couple of snakes that lined up the way that you wanted them to, and they're just so much more important in the long run. It saves so much time and so much energy and so much like needless like propagation that um it's really amazing that we've gotten to this point. I mean, the government has my genetics in a little tube somewhere. So, it's finally reached the reptile world, and I'm sure that it'll branch out into other species in the years ahead too. And I bet that more people will see that really is a market for this and a demand for this, and more people will get involved, and there'll be more options to go with as far as testing. And yeah, I think it's awesome. It's basically revolutionary to the propagation of reptiles in herpiculture. So pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Most def. Okay, some of the drawbacks to shed testing. It's expensive, man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, $50 a shed test, and thankfully there's competition because without Gray Rider we'd still be paying $70 plus for those sheds. But I can see that RGI now has brought their prices down because of that competition. The losing the surprise factor, uh, proving out your own possible hets
Mm-hmm.
is, I personally haven't done it, but I've heard other breeders mention that that's one thing that they kind of lose now with this opportunity. I suppose you could still do that and try to prove it on your own, but if it's available for you, why don't you just pay for it so you don't have to worry about carrying animals that you really essentially don't need?
Yeah.
And another thing is, I think the expectations on breeders to use it is higher. Like going on Morph Market, I'm guilty of it. I put 66% hets, I put 50% hets, but it would be much nicer if we proved it out ourselves as opposed to having the buyer do that. But again, that puts that money on us. Are we going to add that onto the price or something like that? Another thing is that head influence can be strong. Like those puzzles that I put the shed test out was 100% that they were both going to be puzzle, and they both ended up being puzzle.
Yeah.
But again, there's that risk that you take, and just having that peace of mind knowing that they are is a good thing about shed testing. Any
Yeah.
drawbacks you want to add to that?
I think one other one that isn't talked about as much, but is in the way back of everybody's head who has to have faith in something, is that there's always human error in this world. In anything that we're involved in, humans aren't perfect. And luckily, most of the people that work at nuclear power plants do a pretty good job of like maintaining security. But like some people will say like if something can go wrong, it will. And sometimes there have been errors that have been noticed by people already early on with some of the testing where something just didn't come out quite right according to them. And there's a whole bunch of variables about like retained sperm and all these different things that can play a factor, like breeding odds and different things that may make something look a certain way. But there's always going to be human error. Like just like when they do DNA testing and they use it in the court of law in like a murder case or some sort of crime, like it's not 100% foolproof and like set in stone that oh yeah this person this is their DNA for sure. It's just like 99.3 or whatever percentage that this is the most likely. This all seems to match up right. But in the realm of possibility, there's certain things it could not be accurate. It is possible. So I think sometimes it's not going to happen very often, but somebody's going to get rid of some snakes that did tested a certain way or didn't test a certain way, and then somebody else is going to get them, and down the line it's going to prove out that something else, like it was hiding some other gene mutation, something recessive, and then they get like a bonus, and then that person loses out on all this value because they relied on this test. That is going to happen. I'm sure that's already happened to a few times, and that is a drawback because again like we play odds all the time, and when you shed test, it's not guaranteed. You are playing odds even though the odds are most likely in your favor. It's still a variable. Yeah.
Great point. Now
Yeah.
let's get to this comparison between RGI and Gray Rider reptiles.
Hmm.
And the point you just mentioned right now, I was listening to, I believe it was Flawless Exotics live, and
Hmm.
they had Bomb Projects on there. And during that time when RGI came out with the results of Desert Ghost, and we had DGA, B, and C, um, I think Bomb Projects they sold some Desert Ghosts that were DGA and that were proven DGA and DGB, but not DGC, and he lost out money or something.
Hmm.
And so that's real life example. And I'm sure there's other sides to that where, like you mentioned, that the buyer gets a lot more than what they're bargaining for.
Yeah.
But for Mike, from my experience with RGI and Gray Rider, they're both fast and reliable. I know when RGI first started out, they were swamped, and you had tests that took several months to get results from. But from what I
Several, many months, according to some stories I've heard.
but
It
I
just
think
it just all depended.
yeah, I think they figured it out. And from my
Hmm.
experience, they it took about the same amount of time. Once it reached them, within a couple of days, I got my results both back from Charlie and RGI.
Yeah, that's really fast.
RGI offers 30 different tests, and Gray Rider offers 22.
Hmm.
And yeah, they're both gonna. It's the race right now to see who gets the monsoon first, because whoever gets the monsoon first is gonna get my money. So we'll see whether RGI or Gray Rider Reptiles does that. Price, they're both about the same. RGI is $50 to $60. And Gray Rider is the same. The ones that are $60 from RGI, I believe they were Orange Dream and Leopard, which Gray Rider does not offer yet. But prices right now are about the same. And thankfully, Charlie came out, because having that competition, I think, has dropped the price. I'm just curious how further it can drop. How much profit are they getting off of each shed? That's industry secrets, I'm sure. They both offer discounts on both orders. Gray Rider Reptiles offers discounts through Patreons and YouTube codes, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure whether those are limited, kind of like how Redline Shipping offers two, and then after that, it's your code has been used up. Of and those were the things that I could point out between RGI and Gray Rider Reptiles. I've I can advocate them both. They both did a great job for me. Any thoughts on that?
Just that, you know, kudos and applause to them for putting in energy and effort and time and more money than people realize, and passions and like setting aside their, free time to do something really interesting and helpful to the reptile community, and to herpiculture in general in the world. It's just like it's just a really big contribution by both of them, and the people that have helped them along with information and data and help. And I think it's awesome. They both seem like really nice guys. They both are reptile keepers. They are both having a lot of fun being involved more in the hobby and the level they are, and from what they're doing. And Charlie is really outgoing on a lot of shows and social media. And Ben is a really nice guy that I've met in person. He's very smiley and friendly, and still does not have a monarch test ready. So whatever. But he seems like such a great guy, and I got really good vibes hanging out with him, and I just really appreciate their involvement and their efforts. Sometimes it might seem like they're just raking in the dough, but like what it is that they put on the line to try to make this happen, and everything that they have to deal with and the pressures, it is I would say they're not getting rich, but they're rich in life and they're meeting people and having fun. And I really appreciate it. It's really cool.
Okay, one more slide here, and that would be the future of shed testing.
Hmm.
I personally think there needs to be more sales, and RGI's Fast Four deal. I took advantage of that, and basically, it's you buy 2 sheds, and they'll give you 2 free. Now, of course, you'll have to have like multi-gene animals to take advantage of that deal, but maybe you could just surprise yourself and say, "Let's test for cryptic. Why not?" But that's a really good deal, and it's through May, and I think hopefully they'll do more sales in the future. Can you imagine, like, it's Halloween time? Hey, let's make ghosts cheaper for that month. I think there's a lot still to offer with that. Hopefully, there's profit for them still at that point.
Yeah.
Second thing is, I would really like to see them offer a subscription or Patreon service. I know Charlie. One of the reasons I joined Blue Line Morphs was to take advantage of Charlie's discounts on that. And I saw Small Town Exotics. His Charlie offers discounts through him. Charlie, why don't you do a Patreon? I'll throw $25 a month your way if you give me some discounts on some tests. I think that's something that they should think about.
Yeah.
And will there be more competition in the future? If there's more competitors, bring the price down a little bit. Any thoughts on what's next?
I think so. Yeah, I think eventually there will be more people. I think these guys have carved out a pretty good path and have been pretty reliable and there's a comfort in that. But eventually, at some point, yeah, sure, of course. I think there will be more competition in the years ahead. But pretty awesome that we're even at the place that we're at. It's I never would have thought this when I first got into reptiles that there would be DNA mapping and testing. It's
Crazy.
it's it's pretty wild. The world that we live in now is just evolving and evolving and even trickled down into the reptile hobby. But I will say that my phone is on 1%. And I don't even drink 1% milk very often. That's pretty low, fat
We made it.
content. So yeah, I apologize to everybody tuning in and enjoying this episode, but I will have to cut out a little earlier than normal just because of my phone. And that is my bad again, 2 weeks in a row. But this is a really fun topic, and it's a really awesome and rewarding subject and thing that's going on in the hobby. This is really good for breeding in general, and there's only going to be more and more options, and eventually, yeah, sure, it'll get a tiny bit more affordable. Maybe we'll get a new president in, and gas prices will go down, and everything in the economy will get better, and that'll also affect the hobby. So, I appreciate everybody tuning in to watch us. Like it's always something that we're grateful for, and we will definitely bring you more awesome topics in the future.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. Have a great week, everybody. Be safe and take care.